Now, if we have to go by the majority, I'm going to assume this change will likely annoy people more than excite people. What I'm talking about is the change planned for patch 10.1.5, which has to do with loot, with gear. So it's a touchy subject when we go around and touch players' gear. So let's go about this slowly. The intended change from Blizzard is that in 10.1.5, Blizzard is going to be adding a new upgrade track. Right, because we didn't have enough upgrade track in our upgrade system in this season, we have an extra one. We have an extra upgrade path called Myth. Now, this path only has 3 upgrade levels, which are 441, 444, and 447. Now, you might already understand where this is going. If the upgrade path starts at 441, it means only the items that drop at 441 or higher will be part of this path. Now, which place has the items that drop at 441 or higher? Well, the place is the raid, because the highest item level that can drop in Mythic Plus is 431. And then you can, of course, upgrade it all the way up to 441. So what this change intends to do is to make the raid loot, stronger. This is going to be giving more item levels, in particular to the weakest bosses, the lower item level bosses of the raid. We did have a previous video like this one where we were talking about how easy it was to get loot, to beef ourselves up in item level much more than the previous season. We have brought out the maths and concluded that this system, this crest system, is roughly 6 to 7 times better and faster in terms of upgrading your gear compared to Valor, and that was already with the current system we have right now. With this addition in 10.1.5, it's going to be made even stronger. But, of course, as I said at the start, it will likely annoy more people than excite them, because this only counts the raid and not Mythic Plus. And as you know, there are more Mythic Plus players than there are Mythic Raid players. So what this means very simply is that in 10.1.5, the 441 item level loot from Khazara, from Amalgamation Chamber, from Assault of the Zakali will drop at 441 on the Myth track, 1 out of 3 upgrade levels, and can now be upgraded all the way up to 447. And then Forgotten Experiment loot, which is 444, and Rashok loot, which is 444, will drop at Myth upgrade track 2 out of 3 and will be able to be upgraded 1 more level at 447. So basically it is trying to upgrade, to raise the item level of the first half of the raid bosses all the way up to 447. So as I said, this is going to be strictly Mythic Raid related. The only other place where you will be able to find this upgrade system that you can use if you don't Mythic Raid, for example, is the special rare items from Heroic. We're talking about the class trinkets, Neltarion's Call to Chaos and Neltarion's Call to Dominance and Suffering, as well as the cape, the Sarkaret cape Voice of the Silent Star, because those items are the rare items which drop at 7 item levels higher than the rest. They drop by default at 441, even in Heroic, which means they will be part of this new upgrade system. So it means you can find 447 item level loot even in Heroic. The only other place outside of Mythic Raiding and basically the last 2 bosses of Heroic is the Great Vault. Because, of course, the other place that can drop 441 loot by default can also be the Great Vault. Mythic Plus Vault gear that drops at 441 item level or higher, so we are talking about Mythic Plus 16 keys or higher in your vault, can also be upgraded through the Mythic Plus track. Of course, you won't care about this if you're doing Mythic Plus 20s, so in your vault you are already getting 447 options, but with this change it means, for example, you are no longer forced to farm multiple plus 20s for your Great Vault. in 10.1.5. You can just do a bunch of 16s and then loot 441 gear in the Great Vault, because now you can still upgrade it to 447 anyways. But of course, the main complaint with this change would be that now Mythic Plus is made weaker. Now, to be perfectly honest, this won't have that much of an effect as soon as 10.1.5 goes live, because you will have gotten, we don't know when this patch comes live, but let's assume something like 2 months after the release of the season. It means you will have gotten 8 resets from the Great Vault to get 447 loot and 5 to 6 447 crafted pieces of gear. So even if you were doing Mythic Plus and no raid, by the time the patch comes out, you almost have all of your gear at 447 anyways, from the Great Vault and from crafted gear. This will be, of course, much more relevant in the next season. That's when you can find a bigger advantage for the raid players. The Mythic Plus players will be stuck more, about 6 item levels now behind the raid players, because they don't have the same upgrade levels from Mythic Plus gear. Which can still be cause for players to be annoyed by it. There are many players who believe that Mythic Plus should have more relevant gear, which is definitely what we got this season. What we got this season was Mythic Plus being able to be upgraded all the way up to 441, which was at the same level of the first, basically 3 bosses in Mythic, and only 3 item levels below the 4th and the 5th boss in Mythic Raid. So it was still quite good in terms of power that you could get from Mythic Plus, but it seems like if this change is to go live, it will bring back more power into Mythic Raiding. So I think it's a good change. I think it's a good change to keep the raid more relevant, and it's a good change to even give some more spice to the last couple of bosses from Heroic to keep them more relevant. It is, of course, going to make Mythic Plus a little bit weaker, so we will see if this remains by the start of the next season, just how much more important it will make the raid compared to Mythic Plus versus what we had at the beginning of this season. So let me guys know, of course, what you think about this change, whether or not you are okay with this, even though I'm going to assume that if you were a Mythic Plus only player, this won't really be too good for you. I'm more interested in perhaps if you are both. If you are both a Mythic Plus player and a raid player, for example, what do you think about this incoming change, this planned change? Because of course it's not certain yet, but this planned change from Blizzard in adding one more upgrade path to the raiding gear in this season. So with this question for today on this Thursday, we are leaving each other right here. Of course, we are thanking as usual all of the Patreon supporters for the contribution and the help to the growth of the channel. You can still support in plenty of other free ways, like liking and commenting down below, as well as subscribing to the channel itself, together with following me over on my Twitter, as well as following me over on my stream on Twitch. So with these things out of the way, thank you guys again for watching. See you guys tomorrow, and in the meantime, I don't know. I don't think this upgrade system was needed, but then again, the early raid bosses becoming outdated so early also felt bad. So I don't know, actually.